The next thing we're going to do is actually write a program that actually does something. So we're going to skip this plus symbol, print versus print line. We're gonna need this scanner class. So if you have your notes out to that, we're gonna actually make our first actual program that actually does something, gets input from the user and then output stuff and all that kind of good stuff. So what I'm going to have you do is I'm going to maximize the screen. Is get rid of that. Close out of here. Is go back to your project view and we'll make like a new class. We're going to make a new class and I'll call this the age program. Now notice what I did there. I named the class with a capital A. All classes should start with a capital A. They really are variables, but we'll talk about the difference between them. And then I still use camel casing. No spaces are able to be used for class names. Same rules for variables as for classes because they really are variables. But a class should start with a capital letter. So let's just get used to doing that right now. All classes start with a capital letter. All right. Then you're going to go in there, open it up. And again, I'll always have you highlight everything, or Control A will select all, delete it all. But then, and you can actually write the code each time, be public, just keep doing this public class, and the name of this, I call this age program, and then hit enter and do the curly bracing. You can do that. You can do that if you want, and it should be very good for you to get used to typing that. But for the purpose of this, is to kind of speed it up, and I'll show you, is use a prior program. Like I have this hello program that I know works. So I'm going to take all of this, copy that, and bring it over to this age program one and paste it in here. And then just make modifications. I know the class name is not hello. It's the age program. And then the public static void name I'll need. I'm going to get rid of all of this for now. I'm just going to start fresh. But now I kind of have a template set up ready to go. If I compile this, I mean, it doesn't do anything, but at least I'm ready to go here. All right, so this age program, this is the gist of it. I want to, this is a very powerful program. I'm going to ask somebody for their age and then tell them how old they're going to be in 5 years. I mean, that's a top of the line program. But in the program, and you've already been doing this in your flowcharts, we need to get input from the user. So how do we get input? The first thing I'm going to do is ask them for something. Hopefully you know by now, system.out.println. Make sure that's an L. Make something show up to the screen. So I'm going to ask them a question. How old are you? And that's just a very simple question. After I ask them how old they are, if you look at your flowcharts, the next thing we want to do is capture how old they are. And this is where the scanner class comes involved. So every single program that you write from here on out, you're going to put the scanner class in here. So it's going to be scanner, scan, and then equals new scanner, parentheses, system.in, close the parentheses, and so forth. This line of code, and if I put a comment here, every program needs this. What this does is create an object, and we haven't talked about that. The object of the scanner class, the name of the object is called scan, and it allows you to scan things from the user, and system.in is we're scanning things from the keyboard. So there's a lot there. It may take whole first semester or midway through the first semester before you actually understand what all of this code means. But for right now, just put that in your code. Every program needs this. Now, if I compile this right now, it won't work. It'll say, I can't find this class scanner. And this is a good time to learn things about packages as well. But the scanner class is a class written by Java, just like system is a class as well. There's different there's a huge, massive library of all these classes that Java wrote that you can use, but they're not all available to you. Only certain ones are available to you. And if I go look at your notes, sorry. Let's talk about Java packages here in the scanner class. Certain packages are available to you. The first one that is given to everybody is this class package called, so if you go up on top here, actually let's just do what we need to do. Go up on top of public class age, and you're going to import java.util and we'll just do .star for now. I'm going to put a comment here that says this imports the package with the scanner class in it. And we'll talk more about that in class, but you'll also need this line of code every single time you want to use the scanner class. You have to import this package. In other words, to try to sum it up very quickly, there's a massive library of Java classes. They're separated into packages. Packages are like little groups of classes that you use for different things. The util package stands for the utility package, and it has this scanner class in it that we want to use. There is one that we always get no matter what, so I'm going to write it here. Java.lang, if I do .star, this package is automatically given to you. And then you don't need to do what I just put there. So you never need to import it because it's always given to you. But I just wanted to show you that there's this package called java.lang. It's like the default package. Hey, if you're going to write a program, we'll give you these classes that are in this lang package, which stands for language, which is the basic language of Java. So that package has all the classes that we need to write a basic one. We never need to import it. It's automatically given to us every single time. So if I like comment that out, we don't need it, but you can have it. But it's just to show it, this package is not given to us. It has the scanner class in it. We need to put that line of code up there to make it work. Case sensitivity, very important. Notice import showed up a special color. That means it's a reserved word in Java. We have all these things that we go through and do. All right, so we have to have this import of this java.util package every time we want to get input from the user, and maybe I'll put every program needs this to get input from the user. So if you want to capture something. All right, so I just put that as my first line of code. It doesn't have to be the first line, but we'll put it there. When we ask how old are you, so just do this every single time up here. We now need to capture from the user how old they are. So to capture something from the user, there's a famous line of code called scan, or not famous, but we'll use it a lot. Now, if I ask them how old they are, I'm going to be reading an int. So I'm going to say scan.next int parentheses semicolon. This line of code, again as a comment, reads input from the keyboard. It waits for them to type something in. Once they hit enter, it reads it. And this will actually do the reading. But not only do we want to read what they type in on the keyboard, we want to store it somewhere. Remember, Java stores things from right to left. This line of code will read it, but now I want to store it immediately. So storing is the equal sign, but it should go on the right side. So I'm doing this on purpose this way. So this reads it, and then I want to store it into a variable. Well, if I asked them how old they were, and I was reading an int, then I'll probably store it into an int, and maybe I'll call it actually their age. I get to name variables what I want to name them. You should name them what they actually are storing. Don't call this chicken here when it's storing their age. But you could. You just need to understand that it could be called chicken, and I'll do that a lot this year to show that it can be called anything. But int age equals scan.next int. This is scan, which is what we called it up here. That's the name of the object. Dot. And then next int is actually a method, and we'll talk about that when we get to the scanner class. But for right now, this I needs to be capitalized there, and if we compile this now, hopefully it says no syntax errors. So if you are getting a syntax error, you want to pause the video and check your errors and try to figure them out by using this to check them. All right, so that just read it. So right now, age is storing their name. Now I'm going to take their age and do some math with it. We haven't done any complicated math, but very basic math. We want to take age and we want to add 5 to it. Sorry. So age plus 5. And you don't need the space, but I'll put it there. Age plus 5, semicolon, we'll add 5 to the age variable for just a second, but it won't stay there forever. If you want it actually to replace what was in age, then you have to store it back into that variable. So this takes age out of the memory location, add 5 to it over on the side, and then if you don't do anything with it, it just disappears. It's gone. And age is still whatever they typed in. But if you actually want to replace what is in age, then you can say age equals age plus 5. So this will take what was in the age variable, add 5 to it, and then store it back into the age variable or replace what was there. The equals operator on order of precedence is the last thing that gets done. So it'll do all this stuff over here first and then store it into there. Now that's one option, or I can store it into a new variable. Maybe I want to say int new age equals age plus 5 because for some reason I want to hang on to their old age. So maybe this line of code I don't do, And instead, I just, I want to take your age, add 5 to it, store it in a new age, because I want to have one variable continuing to store their original age and then another variable storing their new age, because maybe you want to use this still. And if you replace it, you won't have control of that anymore. So there's, different scenarios will call for different things. In this case, it doesn't really matter. I'm going to do it the way I did it here. All right, so we asked them how old they were. We captured how old they were and stored it into a variable. And we then added 5 to that variable. And this add could be, just a simple mathematics. You could do minus. The division symbol is that symbol right there. That'll divide. And then multiplication is the star or shift 8. So those are the 4 basic operators in Java that are in your math class. We'll learn how to raise things to powers and take square roots and all that kind of good stuff. But add, subtract, multiply, and divide, those are the basic ones. Right now we're adding 5 to their age. And now we're going to tell them how old they are in 5 years. So to make something show up to the screen again, it's system.println. And I will say you will be, well, actually, let me just put new age here first, just so you can see what that looks like. So new age will show up on the screen. Notice I don't need any double quotes around it because new age is a variable, and I literally want whatever's stored in new age to show up to the screen. If I were to put new age inside of double quotes, then the word new age would show up to the screen. Anything that is green or inside of double quotes is called a string literal. It means it will literally show up. But I don't want that to literally show up. I just want what's stored in that variable, new age, to show up. So I just do it like that. If I compile this, it should say I'm the best. Again, if you're having errors, pause the video. Try to find your errors before you continue on. All right, so then we go to the project view, right-click, pull down to void main, run the program. How old are you? I'm 27. And then 32 shows up. Now I'm like, oh, that was good. But I like it to say, you will be 32 years old in 5 years. I mean, that would be cool instead of just saying the number 32. So let's see if I can format the output a little bit better. So I go back into my age program. Instead of it just saying new age here, I'm going to put a prompt in front or double quotes. And it's always good to start double quotes, end double quotes, and then go in between and type. So you don't forget to end the double quotes. That's another good discipline to get used to. Your age in 5 years will be, and then you use this concatenation symbol, which we haven't talked about yet, so we'll do it now, and that's in your notes as well. The plus sign, plus. Your age in 5 years will be plus, and then put new age there. So this plus symbol will not add like it is up here. The plus symbol has 2 different functions. It will add things if the thing on both the right and the left side of it are numbers. If they're both numbers, it will actually add them. If on the left and right side of the plus sign, if one of them's a number and one of them's a string, it's called a string, or a bunch of words or one word, then it will not add them because it can't add them. It'll add what it thinks adding is, which is called concatenation, which is just appending or putting something next to it. So it'll put this literal string next to this variable or what's stored in that variable right now. So the plus sign is concatenating now because it has a string and an int on each side of it. And if there's 2 strings, it'll concatenate. The only time it will add if there's a number on each side of the plus symbol. If there's a number on each side, it will actually add them together. So we'll compile that. We'll go check it out now. So this is how we'll do programs. We're like, oh, I wonder what that looks like. How old are you? I'm still 27 years old. Oh, your age in 5 years. I should say 5 years. So I read it. I'm like, oh, that's no good. Will be, and then there's no space between B and 32. So I go back in here and I'm like, all right, there's no space between B and 32. I guess I'll just put another space there, and I'll change this to years. If I run the program again, I won't see the space. Putting spaces here mean nothing. White space in Java, and this is another good thing to put in your notes. White space in Java means nothing. White space is any space, a tab. If I hit enter, all of that means absolutely nothing to the program. Okay, it's not making it move or do anything. This entire program could be written on one line of code. All of these tabbing over, hitting enter, and doing everything is great for us to look at, but it means nothing to the program. So white space, all this means nothing. So we're like, well, how do I make white space show up? The only time white space actually means something is if it's inside double quotes. Inside these double quotes, these spaces mean something. So after the word B, I'm going to put a space. So now it will say your age in 5 years will be, it'll space over, and then it will put the new age. So the spaces in here mean nothing, but the spaces inside the double quotes will actually mean something. So if I compile this again and run it, hopefully we'll get a wonderful program. 27 is my age. Oh, that is awesome. Your age in 5 will be 32. And maybe even I want your age in 5 years will be 32, and maybe I wanted to say years old at the end. So I want to concatenate that. So just to show you how you can do that, at the end of age here, still inside the parentheses, I put another plus sign, and then I put, like, years old. So here's a string that will be concatenated with this variable, which will be concatenated with this string. But again, if I don't put a literal space inside of the double quotes here first before years, then that variable and the years old will show up right next to each other. So formatting output gets a little tricky, but this should now do it. It should look fancy, and you're like, oh, that's great. But make sure your output is formatted well. But that's a very, 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 very basic program. Now, in this one, when we asked them how old they were, we stored it as an int, which is fine, because we were asking, what if we asked them how much money they had? So if I did system.out.println, how much money do you have? This is where I would capture it as a, oops, I should put this line of code. And the order of the, remember, Java works top down, meaning it does the first, or procedural programming works that way, I should say, and that's what we're doing right now. It does this line of code, then this line of code, then this line of code. So we want to ask, after we ask them how old they are, we want to read it, and then maybe we ask them another question, how much money do you have? We want to read it again, so we'd say scan dot. But now instead of an int, I would say scan dot next double with 2 parentheses after it and nothing inside the parentheses. This will read both integers and doubles, because remember, if you have a double, it can actually be an int as well. But this will read decimals, and if I'm asking them for money, that's probably what I want to do. But then when I go to store it, I would store it into a double called whatever. I can call it whatever I want. Maybe I call it money again. So now, and you should have both of these down, so you know I should use this one if I'm expecting an int from the user. I should use this one if I'm expecting a possible decimal from the user, or I want them to be able to type in a decimal. This will capture both decimals or non-decimals. It'll get both. And then everything down here would be the same. But just know that there's really, you learn 2 methods, next int and next double. That's in the scanner class. It's pretty high level, but for right now, that's how you get input from the user. So you should be able to start those programs that I asked you to do based on that, and then we'll continue to learn all the details of programming.